Did you know a handful of reporters were taken into custody during violent protests as President Trump was sworn in last Friday? Some of those reporters also described as activists, and my next guest writes a piece at foxnews.com that says the following. When I read that as many as 6 journalists have been detained and charged with felonies during riots in Washington, D.C. on the day Donald Trump became president, the first question I had was, were they taking pictures or taking part? John Moody, Executive Vice President, Executive Editor, and a columnist for foxnews.com, wrote that and is with me now. Good day to you, John.
Hey, Bill.
What happened?
Well, as we all know, there were some violent protests in Washington during the inauguration and in the hours right after it as well. There were as many as 230 people arrested during that, and among them, I learned somewhat late, were 6 journalists, accredited journalists. They were accused of, they are charged, rather, with felony rioting, which is a crime.
Does that suggest they took part?
It doesn't.
Did they participate?
They have all denied that they participated in this. The U.S. Attorney's Office in D.C. told me that they are looking at each case, and they're going to make a case-by-case determination about whether these card-carrying journalists sort of became rioters.
You also read in your piece back on screen, you can't riot while you're working and expect your press pass to protect you.
Right.
You've been covering this since the 1970s, right? That was your first press pass, right?
I admit it. Yes.
Do you think, that's okay, do you think the standards have changed over time up to 2017?
Drastically changed.
Drastically.
I think that the reporters that I broke in with and who taught me how to ply this trade would never have wanted their own opinions expressed while they were covering something. They were there to be observers, not to be participants. Over the years, opinion journalism has become more and more prevalent, and I think that when you get a situation like the one in Washington last week, where reporters are even being suspected of taking part in rioting, you've crossed a line.
I wonder what technology does to that equation. Can you quantify
Sure,
that?
it makes it all so much more simple. Anybody with an iPhone and access to a YouTube account can call himself or herself a journalist, and it's not necessarily the case. You can be someone who is streaming, you can be someone who was there and wanted to show the world what you saw, but that does not make you a journalist.
That's an excellent point. I caution viewers when you watch the protests to look at the images carefully and count the number of photographers compared to rioters, because it will tell you a lot, John.
It does indeed. And this was one of those occasions where there was a huge media presence at these protests. Now, most of the journalists there did their job properly and everything else. But there are at least some. I saw a Twitter feed by one of the ones that's accused of this crime where he's, boasting, here come the police, we're going to get arrested, it's minutes away. Well, that's really not the job of a reporter.
Well, it's an interesting story to tell. Thanks for sharing with us today.
Thank you, Bill.
You can check out John's column online, foxnews.com/opinion, and read Mr. Moody's comments today. Thanks.
Thank you.